this is Mr. Aguilar, your art teacher. What we have here today is a baseline drawing assignment. So the purpose of this assignment is to gauge where people are at with their drawing abilities. At this point, the only instruction I've given is drawing fundamentals. That's how to hold a pencil, how to make certain marks, range of motion, controlling values. So that was a brief little exercise that we've done. And what I want to see is what are the students capable of doing right now before we got into a lot of direct instruction. So we're going to pick one of these two images, and they're going to give you about an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes to draw and render these with textures and values. And then at the end of the unit, we can come back and redraw and look and see comparison, like before and after, to see what have you learned, what skill sets have you developed. And again, this all depends on people putting effort in. So if you don't put any effort in, you're probably not going to see any improvement. So when you're doing this, relax, take your time, and give it as much effort as you can. And then in all the lessons that come afterwards, also give that equal amount of effort so that you can make some improvements. So let's take a look at starting this drawing. And so let's get started. So I'm going to do the wooden post. I'm going to do my best to stay on camera. One of the things that I'll start off instructing is we draw at a 45, our bodies are at a 45-degree angle. So if you want to accurately draw something, having your paper straight up and down and trying to draw this way doesn't really work, because you're going to be putting tension on your wrist, and you're going to be interrupting the natural mechanics of your wrist. So simply just turn that paper at 45-degree angle and get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay in my shape. And at this point, I'm not really concerned on how accurate it is at the moment. I'm just going to start laying it in. This video will be time-lapsed. The other thing I'm doing is I'm using these Lumograph pencils because they're supposed to not reflect light like pencil does, to make the video a little bit better. The other thing I would suggest to not do is to draw flat like I am, simply because we draw better at a 45-degree angle, but for the purpose of making the video, I'm going to not take my own advice, and I'm going to be drawing flat. So I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is they want to draw things without building the structure and out really looking at landmarks to kind of gauge where things are. And what happens is you start drawing stuff out of proportion because you're trying to do the detail too soon. You need to build out your forms first and your shapes, and then go in and you can, make your changes and then add your details and stuff like that. The problem with drawing flat is it tends to mess up your scale lengthwise. We'll see how this is. Okay, so at this point, I'm probably not going to be talking that much, and the speed will be filmed up, or the film will be sped up. So I'm going to stop the tutorial right here. I'm going to speed it up. I also increased my shutter speed because of the light hitting the paper. I was getting too much light bouncing back. So as you can see, like the rest of my table got a little bit darker, but I wanted you to be able to see the values. And losing some of those values uh, with the camera and the light overhead. So I'll scan this. And again, this is about an hour and 20 minutes. So do I expect students to be able to do this? No. If they can, then they already have a solid foundation in shading. But hour and 20 minutes, I'm going to stop. And again, I used these Lumograph. I used a Lumograph pencil because it's supposed to help with some of the light blocking off. So these are the Staedtler Mars Luminograph Black. And again, I bought these strictly for tutorials for the lights because I found a lot of my tutorials, it was hard to see because the graphite pencil kept reflecting back the light. So that's it for this. I'll come back to some other tutorials later on shading and finding your shapes, and then really laying in your blacks before you go in and start adding detail and texture. So until next time, this is Mr. Aguilar, and hope you learned something.